Is KGW News at 11.
Hello and welcome to KGW News. I'm Brittany Falkers. We start tonight with a shooting in southeast Portland where multiple people were hurt and at least one was taken to the hospital. Christelle Kumwe is live at the scene near Southeast Main and 166th Avenue. So Christelle, what do we know so far?
Brittany, right now details are scarce, but here's what we know. Police got a call about a shooting in the area around 6:45 this evening. At least 30 units were on scene for a good hour or so, and as you can see by the flashing lights behind me, some remain on the scene for the time being. They say one person was taken to the hospital with unknown injuries, and the police say there are other victims, but they don't know how many or the extent of their injuries. We spoke to a neighbor who wanted to stay anonymous, but says they spoke to police as the situation unfolded.
He said that there was a man that was barricaded in the house, that he had shot someone. So that's what the purpose of all of this was.
The CERT team and the crisis negotiation team were also on site to help Portland police. And as of right now, police tell us there are no suspects in custody. And Brittany, so far that is all that we know. As soon as we get updates, we'll be sure to share it. Brittany?
All right, Christelle, thank you for that update. Also new tonight, 3 dogs were rescued from a house fire in Portland overnight. Portland Fire and Rescue got to the home, which is near 117th and Southeast Bush, around 4:30 this morning. Now the Red Cross is providing aid to the homeowner, and crews are investigating how that fire got started. To a traffic update now, Highway 35 near Government Camp is back open tonight. It was shut down in both directions for about 2 hours today. ODOT says multiple cars spun out because of icy conditions there. Here's a look at Highway 26 where cars were stuck in traffic because of what happened on Highway 35. ODOT says no one was hurt, but crews did have to help get 3 cars back onto the highway. Roads reopened around 2:30 this afternoon. And meanwhile, Highway 30 is reopening to daytime travelers tomorrow for the first time in nearly 2 weeks. You see, the road shut down so crews could clean up after a landslide there. The closure was about 20 miles east of Astoria. ODOT has had 1 lane open at night and flaggers were stationed to wave drivers through. Now, ODOT says it'll open 1 lane in both directions starting Monday morning. If you do plan to travel that way, expect delays. Crews are still in the area. Well, yeah, Joe, I had some friends that were actually on Mount Hood today, and they said driving back was hairy, a little scary, very slippery.
They've seen 7 inches of snow in the last 24 hours, and basically since Friday, Brittany, about 2 feet of snow has fallen up in the Oregon Cascades, and right around where those ski resorts are. Now, we're going to start to see drier weather move in really the next couple of days. A live look now from our Timberline Lodge camera outside Timberline Lodge. We're looking at some dry conditions, but temperatures are right around the upper 20s to the low 20s in a few locations. But heading into tomorrow, we're going to be seeing basically dry weather move through. And after tomorrow morning, we're not going to be seeing a drop of rain, at least a good part of your work week. Still looking at some snow showers along parts of I-84. We'll zoom out a little bit. We'll have a ridge of high pressure start to develop much of the Pacific Northwest over the next 5-6 days or so. You can kind of see where some of those snow showers are along the Oregon-Idaho border. And Boise, you're starting to see a little bit of some snow showers as well. So here's what to expect over the next couple of days. Throughout the Oregon Cascades, you saw great gains for the mountain snowpack and, of course, for the ski resorts as well over the last couple of days. Again, last 24 hours, more than 1/2 of a foot of snow has fallen just outside Timberline Lodge and Mount Hood Meadows since Friday, nearly 2 feet of snow. Now, all the watches warnings have expired throughout basically the Oregon Cascades, and there's even along the foothills of the mountains earlier this weekend some watches and warnings. Now, those watches and warnings are over in eastern Oregon until at least tomorrow morning. So if you're going to be traveling in that direction, be prepared for some snow showers. Meanwhile, as we look at the forecast heading into tomorrow morning, we're going to be waking up to mostly cloudy skies, a few spotty showers, but those clouds really won't lift a whole lot heading into the afternoon hours. And into Tuesday, we'll be seeing some drier weather as well, but I'm tracking some very cold conditions basically from Wednesday and beyond. I'll talk more about that in just a few minutes.
All right, Joe, thank you. Well, let's get you caught up on some other news tonight. One person is dead and another arrested after a crash in Vancouver. Police say an officer tried to stop the driver of this Nissan on East 18th Street near General Anderson Avenue. They suspected that driver was impaired. Well, instead of stopping, the driver accelerated, ran a stop sign, and hit this red Honda. The suspect got out of his car and tried to run off, but officers caught up with him and took him to the hospital. Now that suspect is in jail and faces charges for vehicular homicide along with DUI. The other driver died at the scene. The county's traffic homicide unit is continuing to investigate. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler's 90-day reset plan in the city's Central East Side is underway. City crews are clearing tons of homeless camps and upping police patrols. Blair Best talked to people living on the streets there and found while many are being forced to move, they say they aren't being offered any help along the way.
Forever. It was like, I don't know, way too long.
That's how Kyle describes the past 2 years he's been living on Portland streets. Most recently, fighting to stay warm here on the corner of Southeast 6th Ave and Oak.
A little fire or like burn hand sanitizer or like alcohol or like propane.
The fire department has responded to his fires 4 times in the last week.
Yeah, they know me pretty well, I guess. I don't know.
This area also the latest target for city crews clearing homeless camps. It's all part of the mayor's Central East Side 90-day reset plan to clean up the neighborhood and increase police patrols after dozens of business owners called on the mayor for help about 2 weeks ago, citing safety concerns.
One of our employees on his way into our central kitchen was held up at gunpoint.
Like everyone in this room, we deal daily with feces, human, on our shoes. We deal with break-ins. We deal with assaults.
Mayor Wheeler promised them results.
Not just in terms of the data, but I want it to pass the C test. If you don't see it, it doesn't matter. And so my expectation is that you will.
Another one of his reset plans launched last March in Old Town, which saw temporary results and got 87 people into shelters. Across the river, Kyle's camp is now getting the brunt of this plan. He was swept twice this weekend and has until 8 a.m. Monday to move again.
It kind of sucks. It's like kind of depressing as hell. I don't know. When you got like nowhere to go.
The city clears the camps in an effort to remove all of the tents and trash covering the sidewalks. Yet for those living in those tents, that's their home. And for some homeless people out here in the Central East Side, they say the city isn't helping them get off the streets. When they sweep you, do they offer you any sort of services?
No. They give me $5. That's about it.
According to city data, last week they assessed 500 camps and removed 50 of them. They only offered shelter referrals to 42 people. 33 accepted and 28 actually spent the night in the shelter. So going off of this data, not everyone is being offered a safe place to go. What will it take for you to get off the streets? What is it that you need?
An ID and like somebody that cares, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I just think that they look down upon people who are poor.
Alex and his friend Zach share this corner of Southeast Grand Ave and Oak. They've tasked themselves with watching out for the neighborhood, saying they've stopped people from breaking into nearby businesses.
I just try to make a bigger conscious effort to keep my area clean and my surrounding area and my street cleaner.
He sees the mayor's reset plan as a ticking time bomb, leaving him in fear of his site being removed, one he spent $500 making.
So after we get cleared, what are we supposed to do after that happens?
He is now just waiting for the day he can afford a place of his own.
I have a job. I work at Plaid Pantry. I work graveyard at Plaid Pantry 5 days a week. It's still not enough to pay for something. Like I said, I can either have clothes and food in my gut and live out here, or I can go live somewhere and have a roof over my head and have no clothes and no food in my gut. I can't afford to have both.
Another meeting on this 90-day reset plan is scheduled for Tuesday, and this one is not open to the public. In Central East Side, Blair Best, KGW News.
Now, we reached out to the city asking how many camps they have cleared so far on the Central East Side. They said that they'll let us know on Monday.
Semiconductors you use from the time you get up in the morning and use them all the way till the time you go to bed at night.
On the eve of a big gathering of business, civic, and elected leaders, Oregon Senator Ron Wyden is talking semiconductors and growing Oregon's silicon forest. Wyden sat down with our Tim Gordon this weekend and discussed what he'll be talking about tomorrow at the Oregon Leadership Summit.
Semiconductor research and manufacturing is big business in Oregon, and nobody's bigger in the state than Intel. It and other companies here are producing a product that is at the heart of modern technology, from cell phones to airliners. We've heard about global shortages of the high-tech chips, and Oregon's senior senator says he wants to fix that. He'll be talking about how the $52 billion CHIPS Act will help here at Monday's Oregon Leadership Summit 2022 in Portland.
My legislation that I made a part of this package provides billions of dollars for investment tax credits. And this gives us a chance to really move into the big leagues in terms of manufacturing.
Wyden also gave us early notice of a visitor he plans to host in Oregon early next year, with an eye on growing the semiconductor business across the state.
The fact that the Secretary of Commerce is willing, Gina Raimondo, to come on out and look at how Oregon is really moving ahead in semiconductors is a huge compliment to our industry, and I'll be talking about it Monday.
Building a major interstate bridge is also big business, and plans to replace the interstate bridge are once again being developed. It will be a major undertaking to create a new span connecting Oregon and Washington over the Columbia River. And we just learned the price tag has gone up from about $4.8 billion to as much as $7.5 billion. I asked the senator if it's still worth it.
And how much can the federal government, and your role as a lead on the budget, on the finance, how much can the federal government contribute to this big bill?
We're already starting to dig into these new numbers. I guess it's just really just a couple of days now that we've had them. We know, though, that you can't have big league quality of life with little league infrastructure. So it's my job to make sure that we have these infrastructure reforms and that we also use a sharp pencil to protect taxpayers.
And now on to some big bad business, the massive epidemic of catalytic converter thefts in Oregon and across the country. In August, we told you about a major catalytic converter theft ring centered in Washington County, but operating throughout the West, responsible for stealing tens of thousands of catalytic converters worth $22 million. Wyden says legislation he's introduced with Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar would require manufacturers to stamp VIN numbers on the exhaust system component, improve record keeping and standards for purchasers of used catalytic converters, and codify the theft as a criminal offense nationally.
I think there ought to be real consequences, criminal penalties for ripping people off. There's also an interstate component that I'm very concerned about, because it looks like there's some sophisticated gangs and they just move all up and down the West Coast trying to unload the parts and make a quick buck.
After a brief few days here, Wyden heads back to Washington. As chair of the Senate Finance Committee, there is work to do on year-end spending packages. Tim Gordon, KGW News.